Every day, millions of workers around the world put on their uniforms, grab their tools, and head to their jobs. Some work in construction sites, others in manufacturing plants, laboratories, or healthcare facilities. What many of these workers have in common is access to personal protective equipment, or PPE. Yet surprisingly, not everyone uses it consistently. This is the story of what happens when experienced professionals underestimate the importance of safety gear and the powerful lessons learned along the way. The confident veterans. Meet Marcus, a construction supervisor with 15 years of experience. He'd worked on dozens of building projects, from small renovations to massive commercial developments. Over the years, Marcus had become confident in his abilities and comfortable with the routines of his job. He knew where every tool was, understood the risks, and prided himself on his efficiency. "I've done this 1,000 times," Marcus would often say when younger workers reminded him about safety protocols. Hard hats felt cumbersome on hot summer days. Safety glasses fogged up in humid weather. Steel-toed boots were heavy after a long shift. Gradually, Marcus began cutting corners, especially during quick tasks that seemed low. In the medical field, there was Dr. Sarah Chun, an emergency room physician with 12 years of practice. She treated countless patients and handled numerous emergency situations with skill and composure. During the early days of routine cases, before certain health concerns became widely understood, Sarah sometimes skipped the full protective protocols when treating patients with what appeared to be minor ailments. "It's just a quick examination," she'd rationalize, eager to move efficiently through a busy emergency department where every minute counted. And then there was James, a chemical plant operator who'd worked at the same facility for 20 years. He knew every pipe, valve, and procedure by heart when conducting routine inspections in areas where respirators were recommended. James sometimes went without them for brief checks, thinking his experience and quick timing would keep him safe. The moment everything changed for Marcus, the turning point came during a routine afternoon. He was supervising a project where workers were cutting metal beams for a new office building framework. The job was running behind schedule, and Marcus needed to quickly check some measurements. Instead of walking back to grab his safety glasses from the equipment station, he stepped into the work area for what he thought would be just 30 seconds. A small metal fragment, no bigger than a grain of sand, ricocheted off a beam during cutting. It struck Marcus directly in his left eye. The pain was immediate and intense. What should have been a routine day became an emergency trip to the hospital and weeks of medical treatment. While Marcus was fortunate that his vision could be saved with proper care, the experience left him with permanent reduced clarity in that eye and a profound realization about risk. Dr. Chun's awakening came when she treated a patient who seemed to have simple flu-like symptoms without full protective protocols in place. Sarah contracted an infectious illness that kept her out of work for 3 weeks and required intensive medical intervention. The illness, while treatable, caused significant respiratory challenges and forced her to confront how one moment of perceived convenience could have serious consequences. James's experience involved a routine valve inspection where he spent just 5 minutes in an area with chemical vapor exposure, thinking the brief duration made respiratory protection unnecessary. Within hours, he developed severe respiratory irritation that required hospitalization and resulted in long-term sensitivity to certain airborne substances, permanently changing his ability to work in certain environments. Understanding the psychology of risk, why do experienced professionals who know better sometimes ignore safety equipment? Research into workplace safety reveals several psychological factors at play. First, there's the familiarity bias. When we perform tasks repeatedly without incident, our brains naturally begin to perceive those tasks as less risky than they actually are. This creates a false sense of security that grows stronger with each uneventful day. Second, there's the efficiency trap. In fast-paced work environments, workers often feel pressure to complete tasks quickly. Taking the extra minute to properly gear up with PPE can feel like a waste of time, especially for experienced workers who've developed quick, efficient routines. Third, there's the discomfort factor. PPE can be genuinely uncomfortable, hot, restrictive, or cumbersome. When workers face this discomfort day after day, the temptation to skip protection during quick tasks becomes powerful. Finally, there's optimism bias, the human tendency to believe that bad things are more likely to happen to others than to ourselves. Experienced workers often think, "I've never had an accident before, so I probably won't have one now." The real cost of skipping protection, the consequences of foregoing PPE, extend far beyond the immediate physical impact. Marcus's eye injury meant not only medical bills and lost wages during recovery, but also the emotional toll of knowing that a preventable incident had altered his vision permanently. He had to explain to his family why he'd taken an unnecessary risk and faced the reality that his decision had impacted their financial stability during his recovery period. For healthcare workers like Dr. Chun, the impact rippled through the entire department. Her absence during recovery meant increased burden on colleagues, rescheduled procedures, and the stress of wondering if she'd inadvertently exposed family members before her diagnosis. James faced the difficult reality that his long career in chemical processing might be over. His increased sensitivity to certain substances meant he could no longer work in many areas of the plant, requiring reassignment and retraining for different roles. Beyond individual cases, workplace incidents affect entire companies through increased insurance costs, regulatory scrutiny, and decreased team morale. When experienced workers have accidents, it sends shockwaves through organizations, making everyone question their own safety practices. The transformation after their experiences, all three professionals became passionate advocates for proper PPE use. Marcos now starts every shift with a team safety briefing, regardless of schedule pressures. He shares his story openly, making it clear that experience doesn't make anyone immune to accidents. "I tell new workers that I have reduced vision in one eye because I thought 30 seconds without safety. Glasses wouldn't matter," Marcus explains. "I want them to learn from my mistake, not make their own." Dr. Chun became involved in developing better PPE protocols in her hospital, working to make protective equipment more comfortable and accessible so that convenience would never again be an excuse for skipping safety measures. James now trains new employees at his facility, emphasizing that respiratory protection isn't negotiable regardless of exposure duration. His personal story serves as a powerful reminder that chemical hazards do distinguish between brief and extended exposure. Key lessons for every worker. The experiences of Marcos, Sarah, and James illustrate several crucial principles. Protection is never optional. Every safety protocol exists because someone, somewhere, experienced an incident that led to that rule. These aren't bureaucratic obstacles. They are lessons written in hindsight. Experience doesn't equal immunity. In fact, experienced workers may be at higher risk because familiarity breeds complacency. The most dangerous phrase in any workplace is, "I've always done it this way." Quick tasks are still risky. Accidents don't respect time limits. A hazard doesn't become less dangerous just because you plan to be exposed to it briefly. Discomfort is temporary. Consequences are often permanent. Yes, PPE can be uncomfortable, but that discomfort is minimal compared to living with preventable injuries or illnesses. Moving forward, the message isn't about perfection or never making mistakes. It's about recognizing that safety equipment exists for a reason. And that reason is worth remembering every single day, whether you're a construction worker, healthcare professional, laboratory technician, or factory operator. Your PPE is your partner in making it home safely. The next time you're tempted to skip your safety glasses for a quick task, or leave your respirator behind for a brief check, or forgo your protective gloves for just one moment, remember Marcus, Sarah, and James. Remember that they were confident, experienced professionals who thought they knew better. They learned that PPE isn't optional. Now you know too, and you have the chance to make a different choice. Your safety equipment is there for the moments when things don't go as planned. Because in any workplace, it's not about if something might go wrong, it's about being protected when it does. Stay safe every shift, every task, every time.